Hi guys, it's Danny. Alrighty, today we're going to discuss about orchids which are in spike or in bloom. Along the way I've had multiple questions and multiple requests to make videos with orchids in an intermediate stage, let's say, so before they actually bloom. So you guys can see how the buds look like, how they should form and so on. But also I've gotten a lot of questions regarding some general things that we should do when orchids are in spike or in bloom. Also some specific questions, and I've never known how to compile them in a video. So that's what I will attempt to do today and possibly tomorrow as well, because I think this video will go on into 2 parts. So hopefully you'll learn something new in this video as well. Alrighty. Okay, so the most common general question that I get is if we should fertilize orchids that are in bloom or in spike. You might know that some articles suggest that you actually don't because flowers might drop. If you want to know my opinion, I think it doesn't really matter quite at all. I actually do fertilize the orchids that are in bloom or in spike, but I don't necessarily follow a strict schedule because I do believe that orchids do need a lot more energy when they're producing new growths, especially if you are in a warm climate or a warm season and metabolism is faster. So yeah, orchids do kind of need fertilizer more when they're growing vegetative organs, let's call them like that. But when they are in bloom, it doesn't mean they don't need any nutrients. That's one thing to keep in mind. And also, when I prepare fertilizer, I do make a big batch because I have a lot of orchids, so I'm prone to having leftovers. Should I throw it away? No, there's some money in that fertilizer, so I prefer to just fertilize the orchids that are in bloom. They will benefit from that nutrient boost, let's call it like that. As I was saying, I don't follow the strict schedule, but I don't think it harms either. I absolutely cannot correlate flower loss or bud loss to fertilizer. And there's also that instance when you have an orchid which is in flower or in spike, but also it's growing a new growth. Should you cut fertilizer for this orchid? No, I think it actually needs fertilizer, although it has flower spikes or even flowers. Also, you have the sequential bloomers. Should you cut fertilizer, let's say, half of the year for them? No, you shouldn't. So all in all, I don't follow a strict schedule with fertilizing orchids that are not actively growing, let's call them like that, but I really don't hassle with cutting fertilizer altogether. I really don't think it matters. I've never seen any ill effects about fertilizing orchids that are in bloom. There are really other factors more powerful and more notorious for bud loss or flower loss, like dehydration or hot temperatures or cold temperatures. Now these things will really affect flower spikes. Fertilizer, really not so much, so I don't think you should bother with it. Okay, let's take some particular cases right now, and this is the beautiful Brassavola Little Stars. This is a notorious hybrid known for producing multiple flower spikes and beautiful flowers. It's also an easy hybrid to grow. From what I read and from what I can see, that's exactly the case. So this orchid right now looks something like this. Some of the buds developed faster and they're actually opening up, and I really hope this one will actually start to smell tonight. But what I've discovered is some new flower spikes. So in a previous video, I told you that this orchid can produce flower spikes from older canes that have a sheath. It might be dry, they didn't bloom at their time, but they can bloom whenever they feel that it's appropriate to bloom. So this orchid right now has flower spikes from old canes, from new canes, and from pretty mature canes. This is a cane that I recently discovered. When I actually discovered the flower spike, this cane was not fully mature. So right now you can see that it's kind of mature, the sheath kind of dried. When I discovered the spike, it was not dried, it was, I don't know, the leaf was still curled, pretty curled. So yeah, this orchid is crazy. When she feels it's the moment to bloom, she will bloom. Oh, I think the spike, the cane was something like this when I first discovered the flower spike. So she's a bit crazy. But what I think influenced it enough to produce so many flower spikes, there are 9 right now, was light. If you can see, this cane right here is pretty red. This doesn't mean it's burned, it just means it received a lot of sunlight. And when I say sunlight, I mean filtered sunlight. As you can see, I have translucent curtains. They have the benefit to actually divert the light and actually amplify it somehow. You don't necessarily need direct sunshine to provide bright light. There is actually more bright light with the use of a sheer curtain than with just straight harsh sunlight, which can actually burn. So I think the trick with Brassavola orchids is to provide warmth, they do like their warmth, and a lot of bright light. And if you have a warm climate, this is really easy. If you don't have such a warm climate, you might actually need some additional light, maybe artificial light. But I think the trick to having a lot of blooms on this one is light, and that's it. Now here's an orchid you haven't seen in some time. This is the Maxillaria picta. And as you can see, I have some formations right here. Initially, I thought they were new pseudobulbs, but no, they are flower spikes, and I have 4 of them. How do I know they're flower spikes? Well, if you look up the flower of this orchid, you will see it has a special feature. This one has a dotted pattern on the back of the sepals and on the petals. And when a bud forms, you will firstly see the sepals and the back of the flower, obviously. So if you can see here, I have quite a few dots on these growths. So I can only assume they are buds. They really look like how they're supposed to look like. And of course, this orchid produces flower spikes from the base, pretty similar to the Rufensis, actually. If you want to compare it to the Tenafolia, it's really not the same thing. But I do believe I have some flower spikes here, and the way to know that they're spikes is to check those little dotting patterns on the buds. They look really pretty, and yeah, I think I do have some buds here. Now, the trick with Maxillarias, I did get a lot of requests to do care tutorials with Maxillaria orchids. To be honest, I'm not yet sure that I can make a very informative video. Yes, I do okay with the Rufensis, although I did mess her up pretty much when I actually rotted her growths, so I can tell you what not to do. And with this one, I'm not sure. I have it for a few months. The Tenafolia didn't bloom, so I don't trust myself enough to make a complete tutorial, so that's why I don't want to make it. But if you want a video with some basic care tips, what you shouldn't do, what you should aim for to keep them alive, I can do that. If you want me to, just post a comment down below and let me know, but it will not be a complete tutorial, because I don't trust myself to tell you that I'm an expert in Maxillarias. I hope you get the idea. Alrighty, it's Signotus time. This is the Wine Delight, and the flowers this time are bigger than the ones that I had in September, which is awesome. I'm not sure why, but I think I'll have a really pretty inflorescence this year. Now, a lot of you guys asked me if you should keep watering your Catasetum type orchids if they're starting to go dormant, but they have flower spikes. Now, I'll tell you, I'm not the expert on Catasetum orchids. I've only had this guy for a year and a bit. I only have 2 varieties. They're not species, they're hybrids, so I'm not the expert here. But I can apply basic orchid knowledge, let's call it like that, and I can just give you my opinion. And I believe that any orchid which is in bloom kinda needs water, because the blooms will actually steal energy from the mother plant. And when I say energy, you know that I mean sap, and sap cannot be formed without water. Personally, I do continue to water Catasetum orchids if they are in bloom, but they're losing leaves. They're not quite dormant yet if they bloom. This is what I think. Also, if you take a closer look at the root system of this orchid, and excuse the way I grab it, you can see that the roots are still growing. So as far as I'm concerned, this orchid is not dormant, even though it's starting to lose its leaves. I don't think it's completely dormant, and if it's not completely dormant, I say water it. And I'll tell you why. If you know orchids in general, you know that when they have flower spikes, they are really prone to dehydration because flower spikes actually drain quite a lot of energy, and an orchid needs resources to maintain the flower spikes. I actually had a problem with this guy in the summertime. I actually lost 2 buds, they blasted, and it kinda coincidentally was linked to the fact that I forgot to water this guy. In the summertime, this guy drinks water once every 2 days or sometimes every day. So it was a period in which I kinda neglected him and he lost 2 buds. And for my own sanity, I said I would not forget to water him again. But of course, this thing could easily be attributed to the hot wave that we had last summer. I am not really sure. I cannot ask the orchid what caused it, so I'm just trying to eliminate possibilities. And one of them was the lack of moisture and dehydration. So as far as I'm concerned, when an orchid is in bloom, it kind of needs water. It's the same with deciduous orchids. When they're in bloom, it's time to water them. But again, I'm not the expert. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. So far, so good, with these 2 at least. So, I don't know. I do keep watering them. Maybe not as often. I just let the orchid tell me when it needs water. So when these pseudobulbs start to shrivel, it's time to water. Every 4 days maybe right now because it's autumn. But yeah, I do still water them when they're not completely dormant. And this guy is not completely dormant, obviously. Alrighty, so this was the first part of this video. Second part I will upload tomorrow, but I will add an info card right here. So if you're watching this at a later date, you can actually click the info card right here and it will direct you to the second part of this video because I have some more orchids that I like to show you. So if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and a share, subscribe to my channel for daily orchid videos, and also feel free to leave me questions or suggestions for videos in the comment below and I'll try to make a video for you guys or at least answer you with a comment. If you click on the left side of your screen, you'll be directed to orchidnature.com where you'll find care sheets, identification sheets, and also you can talk to us in the forum section. And on the right side of your screen, you can click to watch another orchid video. Thank you for joining. I'll see you next time. Bye!